Yeah, Jason Wygant here from RacerX. Well, we gave Daniel Blair and his Main Event Moto podcast all summer to screw up being a part of the RacerX podcast network, and maybe they did. I just never listened to the show. I mean, I don't know why you are. But either way, we didn't get any email complaints, probably because no one emails anymore. So we're going to keep the show as part of the RacerX podcast network. But first, a word from some sponsors. Air Medcare Network. What if you're hospitalized with an injury far from home? You'd want to recover close to family and friends, and with an Air Medcare Network Fly You Home membership, you'll have control of where you're treated. You'll be transported to your local hospital of choice with no out-of-pocket cost, and you can now save $10 with the offer code 10MOTO. That's 10MOTO. Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/RacerX offer 1. That's the number 1 to get that $10 off your membership. Essentially, it allows you, if you get injured at a race and you're not close to home, you can get flown back to where you live so you can work out of a hospital that's local, which is a lot more convenient for family and friends. Also by Maxxis Tires. You already know that Maxxis delivers the best tires for your bike, but did you know that Maxxis also offers high-quality tires for your car, light truck, trailer, ATV, mountain bike, and much, much more? Maxxis Tires will let you hook up, pull the whole shot, and beat your competition in any terrain or conditions. Just ask the king, Jeremy McGrath. To learn more, go to Maxxis, MAXXIS.com. And this podcast is sponsored by ETS Racing Fuels. With unmatched consistency and performance, ETS powers some of the most winning teams in motocross and supercross. You already know the riders and the team, but you probably don't know the fuel. Why? Because champions don't give away their secrets. But now with ETS's new online ordering system, you can have ETS Racing Fuel delivered right to your door, your shop, or the racetrack. So it's easier than ever to get ETS's championship-winning performance in your tank, whether you're racing 2 strokes or 4 strokes, 2 wheels or 4 wheels. Go to ETSRacingFuels.com and you will have your own winning secret to keep. ETS Racing Fuels, the most winning fuel you've never heard of. And now, on with the show.
Thanks for listening to Main Event Moto.
Skivvy Underwear, SKVI.com.
Team Skivvy, baby.
Ah, yeah, this is nice. Snuck out here to the public pool at night with the wood grain.
Team Skivvy, baby.
What was that?
Team Skivvy, baby.
What's up, Scummy? Founder of Skivvy Underwear, right?
Team Skivvy, baby.
Yeah, Team Skivvy.
Team Skivvy, baby.
Team Skivvy. Skivvy Underwear, I get it.
Team
you don't
Skivvy,
have to
baby.
keep saying
Team Skivvy,
it.
baby.
Dude, you're so... Man, just get off me. Let me go.
Team Skivvy, baby.
Team Skivvy, baby.
Man, Scummy, you don't have to try to drown
Team
me.
Skivvy, baby.
Yeah, I get it. Team Skivvy.
Team Skivvy, baby.
Okay, all right. I'm going to get some Skivvy Underwear.
You're listening to the Main Event Moto podcast, powered by Nature's Bakery.
All right, I'm here back with Main Event Moto, show 146. They've given me the helm. So I'm here to interview Mr. Daniel Blair. What up?
What's up, Cooksey? This is weird. Super weird.
Yeah, it feels awkward. I feel like I'm
My damn show.
cooking in someone else's kitchen.
Yeah, it better be good.
It's good. Speaking of good in the kitchen, we're brought to you by Nature's Bakery, Fly Racing, Skivvy Underwear, Mika Metals, Scott USA. Have you used that new Fury?
Yeah. No, I haven't used it, but I saw it. I was in at the Enduro Cross in Idaho, and they were all there with everything on display. It's sick.
Little seed.
Yep, it's good.
I knew about that one for a long time. I've been helped test it.
I didn't know that. I'm pissed at Knowles now.
Too bad. No Toil, Guts Racing. Andy Gregg's awesome. I got a Guts Racing seat too. Let's see. EMT Racing. What's EMT Racing?
They are a local guy by me, a guy named Mike Johnson. They have trackside support. They do bike work, motor work, suspension work. They pretty much kind of do everything.
Dude, that's awesome. And then
NorCal guys.
Key bar. You use a key bar, don't you, Joe?
Yeah, buddy.
What's so cool about the key bar?
It just keeps your keys organized and nice and tight. Everything's nice and clean, for your everyday carry.
Nice.
Yeah,
I hate that jingle. Rep Racing. So that's the 3 local tracks, right?
Riverfront, East Street, Prairie City. That's Zeb Armstrong. He runs all 3 of them. That's pretty much where we go 99% of the time around here.
So when I was researching for this podcast, his name came up. Did you know he beat you at the last national you did at Glen Helen?
That'd be one of many times, I think. I don't think that was the only time, but thanks for bringing that up. Let's start on a sour note.
You went 29, 29.
Awesome.
No,
really? Top 30 both motos. It was a good day.
Yeah, not bad. Dude, it's Glen Helen. Dude, if you made the national, in my mind, that's pretty good. Even though that's not like your career standards you set. So let's take
standards, he says, no. Joe.
Whoa. Let's take it back to the very start. I know you.
Well, what are we doing here? I
want to know.
This was your idea, by the way, and you did this with Mathis.
I did this with Mathis.
I liked it.
I have a lot of questions. And I'm sure the listeners have a lot of questions.
I like Steve actually more now after I heard that, because I barely liked him, and now I like him a little bit because I actually got to know who he was, and that explains who he is and why he is. You know. And
it's funny because I hang out with you guys, and I kind of know you guys, but I don't know you. So I asked Steve if I could do that, and I want to do the same thing here, and I want to find out who you are. I know who you present and who you show everybody and who we talk on the surface, but I want to know who and why you are what you are.
Okay, well, I drank truth serum.
Yeah?
Joe, take care of me. Look out for me, brother.
I'm gonna go a little Roy Firestone. I'm gonna see if I can get some tears here.
All right, it might happen. No, it won't. I'm way too stubborn, and I already know you're gonna try, so we're good.
No, I'm not gonna try. So I want to know how you got into motorcycle racing. What was your first bike?
My first bike was a PW50 when I was 1 day old.
So your dad, did he race?
My dad raced. He was a pro, local pro, raced Hangtown. Never didn't do it for long. But when I was born, and my parents were super young, so I mean, my mom was 18. I think my dad was 20 or 21. But the day I was born, he went right down to the dealership, bought a PW50, and then put it in my room, and it just sat in my room for 3 years, I think, till I was 4 when I started riding. But that's so. I was destined to do this pretty much before I was even born. It was one of those stories. You know, my dad raced. You know, him and my mom got married, had me, and I was gonna race. No choice. Pretty much no choice. I had a dirt bike in my house when I was 1 day old.
So it sounds a lot like a lot of guys. It's common out at the track to have a dad living their dream through their kid. It sure sounds like that was what was happening there. Could you feel that?
I don't know if that's the exact words, but I would say it makes sense because I mean, my son races, and I would say that I live. Okay, here's how I think about it. When I hear that phrase, it sounds so bad because usually the stories attached to it are bad. But I'm living through my son's racing. When he does bad, I don't feel good. When he does good, I feel good. There's levels of how far you can take it. So without question, that's what was happening. But there's just different levels. And for me, I lived through my son too, but it's in control. It's not out of control. If that makes sense. Do
you think you chose to ride, or do you think what if you went to your dad and said, "Hey, I don't really like that dirt bike"? How did that have went?
I've never known one day that I didn't. So I don't know. It would have to be all reset and done over again, because I guess when you grow up with a dirt bike in your bedroom and you crawl all over it for 4 years, and then you finally get to ride it, and then you race it, and then at 8 years old you win a amateur national championship, you almost don't have a choice. You're gonna like it because anyone that does it likes it. So for me, I didn't have a choice whether I would like it or not. When you're 1 year old or 2 years old and you're staring at the thing all the time, you don't have a choice.
So I rang up your good buddy Jeff Northrup, and he said that you won on that at 8 years old because Edge Sports gave you a cheater bike.
The bike was legal. It was not a cheater bike.
No, he said it was really good. He didn't say cheater. I added that.
The fact that it was next level and better than everybody else's, there's truth to that. But no, I started on the P-Dub. I went through the whole P-Dub generation. I didn't do the Cobra thing. That came later with my brother. My brother was kind of at that age where the Cobras and all those things came into play.
What year was that?
I was born in 82. Started racing when I was 87. Won in 1990. So I won the World Minis in Vegas when I was 8 years old, 1990.
Wow.
Yeah. And here's a crazy story behind that. My first race ever was at the World Mini when I was 5. That was my first race, was at an amateur national championship, and Ricky Carmichael won that day, and I got last. And then 3 years later, I won that championship. So it was, to me, that was super meaningful because I've idolized Ricky since I was 5 years old. And then when I was able to win that, it was like, Ricky did it, I did it. And then that was kind of the end of the comparisons right there. He ended up doing other things.
Like he did a couple things.
Like being the greatest of all time. And
hey, it's not over yet. There's announcing.
Yeah.
So when you guys went to those races, were your mom and dad together? And how did that go down? Because did Because sometimes families split up, sometimes they stay together.
No, they stayed together through all that. They're not together anymore.
Were they getting along even though they were together?
In all fairness, I don't want to use this platform and time to blow out individuals, but let's
You
just
don't have
say
to blow them out. I'm just
let's
curious if it
just
was a
say-
happy house or a bumpy house.
No,
Sometimes,
not that I remember. I remember loving certain things about the sport and hating certain things about the sport. That I do vividly remember. And again, in fact, my love and passion for the sport was so strong that it got me through very ungood times. We'll put it that way. It wasn't smooth. We'll just put it that way.
And then you've mentioned about being a ring bearer in Debo's wedding.
Mm-hmm. No,
Buddy
Antunez.
Antunez.
That was a ring bearer.
Okay, how did that all go down?
Well, there's actually a backstory to that, too. So when I started racing on 50s in Northern California, there wasn't really anyone to race in the very beginning. So we would go down to Southern California every weekend. Glen Helen, just all those tracks I grew up on. I was pretty much a SoCal kid from NorCal all the way through my amateur career until the very end. And I was just at one of the local races down there playing in the dirt, and Buddy Antunez's mom was walking by and saw me and thought I was just a cute little 5-year-old. And kind of like, where's your parents? I'm like, right there, whatever. And my parents hit it off with his parents. And then the next thing you know, I'm staying at Buddy Antunez's house every time we went down south. They almost sort of adopted me into their family as a little guy to hang out with. Buddy is just dominating Suzuki factory 80 rider, just baddest amateur 80 rider in the country.
What year was this?
This is back in 87, 88.
Yeah, 'cause I raced him in 88 at World Mini. That was his last year.
Was that the year where the big fight happened with him and Clowers and all that? So yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah. I wasn't in that Race
rad.
Champions. I was in the next year, but yeah.
Rad story, man. I remember watching that and being just like
So
mesmerized.
here, I got
you would have thought that I'd have been influenced by that and grown up wanting to fight people because dude Buddy laid the smackdown and I'd actually reverse effect. I was like terrified. Like, oh, why is Buddy fighting?
So Race of Champions, back in the day, they took all these amateur kids, put them on an equal bike. Everyone rode Kawasaki's.
Bone
If you're a
stock
factory,
Cowie
even if you're a
80s.
factory Suzuki, you jumped on Kawasaki, they all raced.
Stalkers.
Buddy was the guy. He won everything. He had a rough weekend. Clowers had just kind of established himself. They start battling, and I think Buddy took out Clowers in the race. Third one's coming up. There was 3 moto format. I'm walking by Clowers' pit, and I see his dad telling him to take out Antunez.
These are little kids. These are 14, 15-year-old kids.
I didn't see the third moto, but I guess Clowers
dude.
slowed down, ghosted his bike. It got ugly. Parents fighting, all sorts of gnarly
Fist
stuff.
fight on the track, fist fight in the pits, dude.
It was ugly. Yeah,
And I was like Buddy's little mini cousin kind of at the time. You know what I mean? I was just with their family all the time. And then, of course, as he grew up and got older, got married, I'm the perfect age. I was like 13. You're going to be the ring bearer. And then I meet Denny Stevenson, who is the best man. And I got to watch Buddy and Denny at their wedding night. And that was a learning experience as well. A lot of learning experiences from Buddy Antunez growing up.
learning what?
Learning how to party at 13. I didn't even know that human beings did that kind of shit until I saw Buddy and Denny at that wedding. Emig was supposed to be there. He was at the donations, so he couldn't go, which I was bummed. I wanted to meet Jeff Emig, which is crazy because then I ended up working with him and now friends with him. But at that time, I was like, Jeff Emig's going to be there? And then he couldn't, and I was pretty bummed out. But that's when I met Buddy, or that's when I met Denny for the very first time, and I know him now, and I know you guys are buddies, so
I'm okay with
we'll leave
Denny.
it at that.
We're good. Partridge, not so much. I shouldn't even say his name.
Well, you did. So.
Whatever. Yeah, I'll stop. I'm going to say something bad. So now you're racing. When does Vince? Or no, hold on. Before we get further, when does Uncle Jim Holley come in the picture?
I've known Jim forever because he would run races in Northern California. I mean, I remember my first injury ever. I actually broke my wrist when I was 9 years old on a 60, racing the Reno Arena Cross, which is a race that he always ran, promoted, him and Rob Hansen. So I've known Jim since I was probably in that 8 or 9 year old time, just from him promoting races and being around. But I always knew him as that guy, Jim, former racer, promoted races. I didn't know him like I do now, obviously, until as I got older and got into, like, I'd say into the pro races. He would run this big, huge Supercross up in Red Bluff that was a huge summer moneymaker, and he was a promoter, would run it, and so I got to know Jim better in my adult life, but I technically met him when I was like 8 or 9 years old, so I've known him since I was a little kid.
Nice. I always wondered how that worked out, and you've dropped hints about it, but I never knew it all tied together.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
then again, as an adult, I've been around him a lot more. But we didn't have like a huge history. So when I started on Race Day Live, it wasn't like me and Jim were like long time best friends. It was almost like we were long time acquaintances. He always knew me, watched me come up and through the ages, and I always looked up to him because he was Jim Holley, and I knew he was a former world champion, and now he was a guy that promoted, ran races. So when Race Day Live kicked, though, it was almost like we had this long history that was not deep, but there was a lot of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we hit it off great, and then Jim's personality is just one of the best there is. So within like 5 seconds, we were like best friends. And now me and Jim are like, when we're together, there's just, the chemistry is off the charts because we're just like, it's like we're lifelong buddies, even though we really never were until we started working together.
Well, that's why I
makes
asked,
sense.
because it seems like you were lifelong buddies. So
I would say lifelong acquaintances, more 3 to 4 year buddies.
so now you're racing as an amateur. You got a title. How's the racing career developing, and when does Vincent start joining you? How much younger is he?
4.5 years. So he's got that typical little brother hand-me-down type story. He was never really motivated and that into it, so he would get my leftover stuff. I mean, he had little periods here and there where he did care, and he did get the goods, but for the most part, he kind of just was little brother who... it's a very James Malcolm type story, where everything was on James, all the focus was on James, all the pressure was on James, and Malcolm was just kind of there, which ends up sometimes being a great thing because you grow up with less pressure. He was never in trouble. He was never, under the gun. For him, I think his racing career was probably a lot more fun than mine because it wasn't a career. He was just little brother. And then he would have these years periodically where it did matter for him. And then for like 3 years, he wouldn't care again. He was very hit or miss just based on a number of different variables. But he started right away. As soon as he could ride, he was. He actually started when he was younger than I was. He was like 3 years old riding down the driveway. I remember it's crazy. I'm actually saying this right now because I haven't thought about this in probably 20 years. But I remember the day he started riding, he had training wheels on his 50, and Dad sent him down the driveway, and neither training wheel hit the ground. He just rode right, you know what I mean? Like he just rode all the way there, all the way back, and never hit the ground with either wheel. He was so balanced. So my dad took the wheels right off, and his training wheel days lasted 1 minute. Where for me, I think I started on him, and I was like leaning. I remember I used to lean on the right side, dude. I tore up the right tire on that training wheel side because I would just lean on the right for probably, 6 months to a year when I started. But Vincent always, I thought, was a little bit better than I was, more talented, but he never cared. I cared all the time. And I had highs and lows throughout my amateur career based on a lot of other variables, but care was never one of them. I really did care when I was young. I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a Supercross star. I wanted to be a champion. I want all that. Vincent never did.
What kind of support did you get, and were your parents struggling? Was your dad struggling to get you to the races money-wise? How did that break down?
Maybe that's why it was tense, I'd say, because it was always a struggle. And I think my parents did a decent job at keeping it away from me, but I knew that it wasn't easy, and I knew that things were hard, and I knew that we couldn't do a lot of the things that everybody else did, and I knew that I had subpar stuff at times because we couldn't afford it. So it was one of those deals where I was very aware. I understood the scenario, but at the same time, it was kept from me. It wasn't one of those things. I was never like, hey, we're broke, so you better do good because we're broke and you better make it. It was never that. That was not where the tension came from. It was that stuff was kind of hidden to me, but I was aware. I mean, it's the same old story about Santa Claus I've told before is, I knew Santa Claus didn't exist well before I admitted it to my parents because I overheard him. I listened well. I listened to the conversations, and I knew things that I maybe wasn't meant to know all the way through.
Do you feel like your racing might have put a little bit of a strain on them?
Oh, for sure it did. Without question. My mom was very around in the beginning, and then I couldn't tell you the year, but I remember there just being a cutoff where she no longer went. She didn't go because it wasn't a good place to be. It wasn't pleasant. It wasn't good. The odds of us coming home happy were small, and I think she got tired of defending me and got to the point where she couldn't defend me anymore because I was stubborn and wanted to keep going, even though there was a good 7 to 8 year run where I probably should have just quit. It was too hard on me, but I wanted to do it. So I put up with things, and I think my mom finally got to the point where she just couldn't deal with it anymore. So that's, again, I don't know the year, but I just know that at some point there was almost like the switch was flipped and she no longer was going to go. She couldn't go anymore, couldn't take it. Was there injuries at all as an amateur? Nothing serious. I got a collarbone when I was like maybe 12 or 13. I did my foot, my meta somethings down in your, what is it, carpals, tarpals? What is the foot one? Tarsals. Did a couple of those. But the collarbone, I was out for like 3 weeks. The foot, I raced. It was at the World Mini. I ran my foot over in a rut and then still raced and was top fives. Then I got home and had 3 broken bones in my foot. So it wasn't bad enough to where I was ever taking time off. Like it makes me so sad too, because I see kids now that race, and you'll see a kid with like a tib fib and he's out for 6 months, or a femur even. I never had any of that. My first real injury came when I was in my 20s. I tore my ACL. But I was always a super careful rider. That's the thing, is that got worse as I got older. But as a kid, I was very talented, very technical, very calculated, very safe. So I never really put myself out there to get hurt. I was never wild and crazy. That's a strange characteristic to have with a dad where you felt the pressure to be calculated. That's rare. That's weird how that happens. That's the round peg, square hole scenario where it just. I would say, to make it simple and understandable, he didn't understand me well enough to get the best out of me. So what he was wanting out of me, I couldn't do because I wasn't that person. I was a little timid. I was a little careful. Any success I had came from extreme calculation, not from just having a sack. And I would ride below my potential mostly because I was cautious and careful. And when results are needed, or even for me, it was always effort. It was my effort being questioned, and thinking that I didn't care, didn't try. It's like, no, it's just because I'm calculated and cautious and a little scared at times. I mean, you got to remember, I'm small. I might look a little huskier right now because I'm probably 15 pounds overweight of my body frame. I'm 5'5" and a half. I should probably be 140 pounds. I was really tiny. And for me, I was always jumping up classes early, always. No matter what class I was in, I was always a year ahead. I was always racing with guys older. I was always getting on a big bike too. Everything I did was so early, and that was so wrong with someone that had my personality, which was careful and timid, straight up. And my fear and timid nature looked like lack of effort, and it never was. And that created a major disconnect between me and my dad. And I got the bad end of that a lot because I was misunderstood and treated in a way. You have to understand who you're working with. I've had to learn with my own kid how he is to get the best out of him. That wasn't done with me. It was this way, and you need to be like this. And maybe I never spoke my piece and said, maybe I didn't know. I don't think I knew. Looking back now, I know how I was. At the time, I was just getting chewed and didn't really know why. Did anyone tell your dad to back off? No. I mean, my mom. But when she bailed out, then it was just you and him. And did it get worse at all, or is it better? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it got worse all the way, honestly, until I turned 18. It was like one of those things even with that, like the switch. The day I turned 18, I honestly can't remember ever getting chewed again after the day I turned 18. It's like once I became a man and I was my own man, it was complete flip on the approach the day I became an adult. Okay, all right, Daniel, we'll leave it at that. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back with your pro career or how we got into that. Okay.
Main event moto.
Let's be real. Kids and adults like things that taste good. What if you had a food that tasted unreal and was healthy?
Dad, get me some Nature's Bakery.
What flavor, Evan?
Any, duh.
Seriously, my kid is a pain when it comes to track snacks, but since we started eating Nature's Bakery, it's gotten a lot easier.
But Dad, don't you always call Mom a track snack?
That's not what I mean, Evan. Make sure you eat Nature's Bakery when you're at the track. Convenience is everything to us in the Batcave, and that's why we rock a key bar and no toil filters. Trust producer Joe, you're sick of that jingle jangle in your pocket.
Yes, sir. Just go get a key bar, like your Bat Bros.
And if you're not using no toil filters, you probably still have a flip phone. They make one of the worst bike chores easy. Throw the filter in the wash machine with your ladies' panties, and they'll never be cleaner. Get with the program and get a key bar and switch to no toil. Pay attention, Motoheads. I'm a picky SOB, especially when it comes to products on my son's bike. That's why we run Mika bars, sprockets and chains, and a gut seat cover, and it's not even negotiable. Look, if you care about quality and performance on your bike, you'll be running Mika metals and gut seats and covers. And if you don't, you're a what, Evan?
A noob like Uncle Vincent.
Main Event Moto Podcast.
All right, Daniel. So, it was a tumultuous amateur career, but you had some friggin' awesome results. To win World Mini, dude, there's not many people that can say that. What was the transition like? And looks like your first result that I could find was 19th at A2 in 99. Did you turn pro then, or what break that down for me?
Looking back, this was, I would say, probably the stupidest decision and the worst thing ever. Maybe this is the way I believe about amateur racing. Maybe this is I'm reflecting back. I won the World Minis when I was 15, and this is and I'll go back a little further than that because this is really weird story.
So you got multiple titles.
I won the World Minis 3 times, or 3 titles, and I only did Loretta's once.
If you did that these days, you'd be a factory rider going pro.
Oh man! All right, so you want to hear the worst decision of all time?
Yes.
So I'm 15 years old, and I'm racing locally, just crushing it on an 80. I think they're 80 still. I don't remember when they turned 85, but whatever. I'm going to say
85,
I'll
whatever.
say 85. They're on an 85. And a guy named Greg Holbrook is at Riverfront, which is crazy because my son races there every weekend in the summer. Shows up at Riverfront, and I'm racing just on my 85, and he is one of the owners of Mach 1 Motorsports, which is a dealership up here in Northern California. And he comes up to us and says, "Hey, I don't remember the exact conversation, but he wanted to support me. He wanted to sponsor me." And it's just like one of those silly moto movies, like, guy wants to sponsor you, like, what are we going to do with this sponsorship? Well, he pretty much was like, what do you want to do? And again, I guess I'll take some of the blame in the decision making. Don't forget, I'm 15 years old, but I wanted to be a pro. I wanted to race big bike, and I literally got a 125 250 Honda. This is 1998. No, this is the end of 97, so the 98s were just coming out.
Oh, that horrible Honda.
And I got off my 85 and got a 125 and a 250 and turned pro.
Oh. Dude.
Is that the stupidest thing ever?
Yeah, that's about what I did. Well, I did it first year.
Okay, and don't forget, too, I just turned 15. I probably weigh 110 pounds, maybe, the most.
Wow.
And talent-wise, I was ready. And the reason why I know that is because I immediately started bothering the daylights out of Steve Lamson, Talon Volan. When they would race local races, because I would hole shot everything. And that was also a big problem, though, because I'm this young little tiny kid who would hole shot everything. I got knocked down a bunch. One of my good buddies, Carter Gurney, I remember him just obliterating me at Sand Hill one time. So imagine me, this tiny little kid with enough talent and skill to be up there, but had no business being with grown men. And dude, whatever little bit of confidence I had just got destroyed immediately. And I remember being in arena cross. I went to the Sacramento Arena Cross. I was too young. I wasn't even legal. I raced the first night. AMA comes up to me and goes, "Hey, people are saying you're too young. You need to bring your birth certificate to come race tomorrow." We didn't show up the second day. I was legally too young to race arena cross professionally.
So who's in your program at this point? Is it you, your dad?
It's me, my dad, and Greg from Mach 1.
Okay, I'm sorry, but somebody needs to step up and say, you're 15, you shouldn't do this yet.
Looking back, it was without question the worst of many decisions that ever happened.
And I'm sure they meant well, but they didn't know. But yeah, it's tough.
Again, I was a tease, though, man. I was really talented as a rider. Everything came easy to me. I was very technical. So it looked... In fact, if you just watched me ride the bike, I was ready to ride the bike. I was really advanced at that time. And I got right off an 85 and was on a 250. I was pretty sick. So the World Mini comes around the next year. I'm 15, and we've done it every year in my life since I was 5. It was my first race when I was 5 years old. We're going to go. And the problem was I was racing pro, so I couldn't race the schoolboy class, which is what would have been fine for my age. I could have raced schoolboy, and they said no because it's non-pro.
Which at that time was getting all the attention from the factories.
It was an important class.
Yeah.
So we couldn't go. I had all these big bikes. I couldn't go. We didn't want to go to the World Mini and have me race the A class because I was, it just didn't seem like a good decision. So somehow the idea came up that said, well, you could go back and ride your 85. You're of age. That's not a classification class. Schoolboy was specifically non-pro. Schoolboy, non-pro. 85s, there was no rules on classification. And I know the look on your face right now, and just believe me, you're going to laugh when you hear how this goes.
I can see just a parent shitstorm coming.
A manufacturer shitstorm. There was no Honda support whatsoever at amateur racing at the time. And I got on I borrowed 3 bikes from 3 no, I had 1 still left over. But I raced Super Mini, Stock and Mod 85, and I jumped back down, and in like 2 weeks' time, got back on the bike, felt kind of awkward because I'm been riding a 250 in the pro class, and then went to the World Minis and just smashed the shit out of everybody. Won both classes, messed up in the Super Mini. I think I crashed out. I don't remember. But I won the Stock and Mod, and not only were the other dads pissed, and it's like, you know what, you idiots, I raced your kids our whole life. So just because I jumped on big bike, it wasn't like I was sandbagging. I was racing you guys 5 months ago on my 85. I jumped on a big bike for 5 months. Yes, I got pro experience, but it's not like I was a real pro. It was more like I was that idiot that turned pro for 5 months and then came back to the 85. But they were bitching and wanting to protest and complain. The big problem was the manufacturers. They hated me for doing that because I showed up on a Honda and beat everybody, and there was no Honda support. It was all Yamaha and Cowie, Suzuki, and here I show up on a Honda after racing pro all winter long, drop back down and win. I literally got no love. Instead of the manufacturers going, oh yeah, this kid who's been top 5 his whole life and now is winning everything, let's grab him. They were literally like, screw you. Because we tried to go to all the manufacturers and there was no bite whatsoever.
If you did that now with the internet and social media, oh my God!
I know.
You'd still be everyone would be all over you, and you'd have
good and bad. People would hate it. There'd probably be a few that thought it was sick. It doesn't matter. But
they would know how good you were. And you wouldn't miss out.
So you ready for the next worst decision of all time?
Yeah.
Greg from Mach 1, who is stoked. Like, dude, I mean, I don't even think he knew winning the World Mini how much about. He wasn't he didn't have a set plan. He was more like, hey, we'll support whatever you decide, kind of thing. I just won the World Mini. He's obviously down to support me in any way. Whatever you want, we'll do. Okay, well, park the 85s again. Let's get back on the big bikes. You turned 16 in July, and we'll race Washougal 3 days after your birthday, and you're going pro. Instead of giving all these borrowed bikes back to the people I borrowed them from, having him give me 3 or 4 brand new Hondas, because if the manufacturers want to play that game, then we could have just done our own thing. Mach 1 didn't care. They had Honda and Yamaha. I could have got all brand new bikes, tricked them out, went to Loretta's, beat the shit out of everybody there, and then guess what else I could have done? I could have won the U.S. Open in the first year. I grew up with a Supercross track in my backyard.
So I
was way advanced in Supercross, way more than I ever was at outdoor. The first year of the U.S. Open, I would have won Loretta's and the U.S. Open back-to-back, and then probably gotten picked up and then been set on my way. But instead, went and raced Mammoth in June, turned 16 in July, went 3 days later and raced Washougal.
How did Washougal go?
Horrible. It's a pro national. I was 115 pounds on a Honda 125 that was slow. That was the worst. One of the worst bikes ever made was that model, that 98 Honda 125. And I didn't even make the national. I didn't even qualify.
So,
talk about speeding it up.
Did you race Billy Laninovich?
When I won the World Minis, he got second in both classes. He was the one right behind me. And he was a Yamaha support kid. Who else was in that class? You know what's funny is James Stewart was 1 year younger. And we would have stopwatches. And I don't like to admit this, but I will. I won the 14 and 15 class. He was 12 and 13. His lap times were faster than mine. He was like Stewart, 3 years younger than me, but whatever. He was a freak. Everyone knew it. But Laninovich was my age. And him and Ryan Morris were 2 guys that... Ryan Morris was a NorCal guy like me. Laninovich was a SoCal guy. But those were 2 guys that I raced at that time. And again, just such a better path led them to whatever. And I could beat those guys. I beat them. But no, I was 16 racing Washougal and could barely even touch the ground. You know what I mean? It was
wow.
I look back on that, and that's that. You know, and I would be told that that's what I wanted to do. That's what would be told to me.
Yeah.
But again, 15-year-olds don't make decisions.
No,
I'm
they don't.
sorry.
Well, that's why they have laws.
Especially extremely dumb ones. Anyways, but I look back, and that was by far, without question, the biggest mistake because I had support. I didn't need Yamaha, Cowie, Suzuki, and that. I had Mach 1, and they would do whatever we wanted, and I could have had brand new bikes, and in the next 6 months, I would have dominated everybody. The time I spent on the big bike really gave me a kick in skill. Racing with Lamson and Volan in the Winter Series, getting back on an 85, I did not. Nobody in my class, I had no respect for anybody at that point.
So, Joe, are you familiar with Loretta Lynn's?
Yeah.
You know how big it is. If a kid wins, they get a pretty much a ride. That World Mini doesn't really exist anymore. Dude, the fact that you won that...
The World Mini was
actually bigger than Loretta's.
It was the West Coast Loretta Lynn's. It was the World Championship. It was just crazy, too, because if I look back in my 12, 13-year-old years, I raced against Chad Reed and Grant Langston. They would show up for that one, not Loretta's. I raced both of them at the World Mini. The World Minis was equally as important.
I think it was
the
more
West
important.
Coast. Maybe it might have been at that point. Loretta's took it over because World Mini was in Vegas. It was always windy. It was a shithole. It lost its luster, and Loretta grew correctly. But at that time, I mean, put it this way: I only raced Loretta's one time when I was like 13. I never went to Loretta's. Yeah. The World Mini was my Loretta. That was the West Coast Loretta's. So, anyways, that was the transition into my pro career. And then to your point, the result that you have. 5 months later, I raced Anaheim 1 at 16 years old.
This is Anaheim 2. Did you?
Oh, I didn't make the main at Anaheim 1.
Okay.
But I started that year.
Okay.
And I only made one main that year, and it was that one in 99.
Yeah. It was
and again, I was 115 pounds. Just zero support. Riding, I had a bike, just a Yamaha 125. I don't remember what the bike was like, but I was just a straight privateer little kid racing Supercross. And again, a kid that had major confidence issues and major fear issues and major conservative outlook on everything. So I'm not the kind that's going to jump in there at 16 and let it rip. I was terrified.
So how? Okay, so you make one main, which is legit. Anyone that can make a main, especially at that size against those guys, obviously people are still. They got to be high on you after winning World Mini. Where'd you go from there? They weren't high on you.
Nobody was. I was.
What?
No one knew. Okay, I had Mach 1 and that's it.
How?
Nobody gave a shit. I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't, I guess, in the mix and understanding how it all worked back then. But never got approached. No one ever talked to us. I didn't even. I thought I had what I needed, which was I had Mach 1. That was.
I don't want to keep going back to your dad, but were people? Was it him? Would they not want to talk to him? Like, because I know a lot of people avoid the Leslies because Tony was a little crazy at the time. Do you think that might have played into it?
I don't know. I don't.
You don't know? Okay.
I can't answer that. It wouldn't be fair to answer that because I really don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to 2000. Looks like you did a full season in 2000. That was your first full year. How did that go? And what was the same still in the Mach 1 program?
Same.
How long did that
Mach
last?
1. That I lasted with them, I think, through 02 even. So 2 more years. Once I turned pro and went to Washougal and got absolutely destroyed, I was pretty much shell-shocked for probably 3 years. I had so much respect for everybody, none for myself. I was terrified. I thought they were great. I thought I was inferior, which I was. I never even rode to even a fraction of my potential because I was spooked. I was thrown to the wolves so early, chewed up, spit out, and it lasted for a long time. And it took a couple of years before I ever even had the confidence to even break out a little. I was scared. I'd sit on the gate and see, like, how can I somehow get into this main without putting myself up front? Because I didn't want to get up front and get taken out. And I don't know. I was spooked bad. And it lasted all through my first 2 or 3 years. And then I'd come to a local fair race, and factory guys could show up, and I'd beat them there. But at the big races, it was overwhelming to me. Pretty much from that moment until maybe 2002 is when I actually started to have a little bit of faith in myself and started getting results that were actually noticeable. So 3 years of shit, dude, straight up. But then again, that second year when I was 17, I raced all the nationals, and I was making the nationals on a 252 stroke Honda. probably still 115 pounds on a 252 stroke, making all the nationals.
Why did a guy that small? Why did you ride a 250?
Who knows, man? I don't know.
Seems like a bad idea. So yeah. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So where did you go from there? And your last national was in 2002 at Glen Helen.
Well, there's another variable, I guess you could say. Once the Mach 1 time came to a close, I was 100% on my own, and this is about when I'm about 18.
Yeah.
And when I say on my own, I mean all the way, like financially, it was all me now. I was a grown man at 18 on my own dime. Everything was. So at that point, when I lost that support, and it's on me now, and I'm still obsessed with this stupid ass sport. At the time, I'm thinking I'm still obsessed with this sport. I had to survive. I had to make money. I had to pay my cell phone bill and whatever. And so I didn't want to do the nationals. I couldn't afford it. And why? So you saw my results. What am I going to go out and get mid-20s and grind away as an 18-year-old? No, I'm going to race Supercross in the winter, and I'm going to race fairgrounds and local stuff in the summer so I can make money and live, be an adult.
You didn't work. You just did that.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't remember having a job until maybe when I was like 20 or 21, probably after I'd met my wife, who was a girlfriend at the time. But right then and there, no, I would race, and I would do just enough to make enough to just race dirt bikes and race Supercross. And I almost had a ride in 2003 in 4 with Ryan Clark. He had Team Solitaire.
Yep.
Couple little complications, mostly on idea. I think he wanted me to go back onto a 2-stroke. I didn't want it. I wanted to stay on a 4-stroke, so I ended up not doing it. But again, from 18 on, I was on my own, and I've been surviving, like straight up. I've joked with Joe, I'm like a cockroach, dude. From 18 on, it's been just survive. And I've done it, but it's been so hard, and I've never had enough to where I was able to get up over the hump and really give myself another shot at it, because it was just survive and keep racing my motorcycle. I didn't know anything else. I knew nothing. I hated school. I didn't want to go to college. I had just enough. My grandma helped me buy a truck. I had a S10, and I just raced.
What did you do for health coverage at this time?
I had Blue Shield. It was about $80 a month. It was major medical only. And I know that because I paid it, and I was pissed off how expensive it was. Funny, right?
Yeah.
Major medical only, $80 a month. I was like, that's so stupid. I have to pay $80. I don't even go in there, because at that point I hadn't been hurt yet. So I'm like, dude, I pay $80 a month. I don't. If I get a cold or a flu, I don't go to the doctor. I ride it out. So the only time I would need to go in there is if I got really hurt, and at that point I hadn't gotten hurt yet. So I was stupid medical covered. That's pointless. It ended up paying off when I needed it. When I blew up my knee the first time, and second time, and
so let's break it down. So now you almost get Solitaire, you don't. What are you doing bike wise, and what team? Where are you going? Is your brother with you?
So that's 2004, and in 2004 season, let's see, I end up going, I think, to Powerhouse Yamaha and buying a 250 and a 450 on a Yamaha card. Remember when Yamaha used to have their card? They would give
zero
financing, 0 payments for 0, dude. And I had good credit, because from the time I was 16, my mom got me a cell phone and a bank account when I was like 16. So I was like a grown ass man at 18. I had credit, had a good score. Went in there and bought 2 bikes, and I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if that's the year. It might be the next year. The next year, my wife bought my brother his 2 bikes. So we had 4. We financed 4 bikes. I did 2. My brother did 2. I think that was
Wait, so when did Maggie enter the picture? What year?
2001. So I was about...
What's she buying Vincent bikes for?
Because he was my brother, and she needed help. And we got married young. I mean, I met her in 2001, and by 2004, we were married. Anyway, but I'm skipping the 04 season, because 04 was the year when I really broke out, got my name out there. It was the year I wore the LBZ gear. Yeah. And my brother wore LBZ gear. He was a rookie. He was like 16, or we talked about his career a
little bit, yeah.
I think he was 17, and I got a box van and loaded it up. He went with me, and we drove and did the whole series, and we got LBZ to help pay for some of it. We looked like Mortal Kombat characters. But at the same time, I was hole shotting and leading heat races every single week, looking like a weirdo. I mean, I didn't look like a normal.
It wasn't a bad look. It was pretty cool.
Dude, I had to wear a belt, bro.
The chrome belt, right?
Yeah, it was
studs on it.
Dude, LBZ wanted to stand out.
Mike Russell
did.
Mike Russell
was one of the coolest dudes ever, though. But I definitely looked odd. But I was hole shotting and leading and killing it, like up front, making a name for myself. And that's honestly like, I think almost like a turning point. And now remember, how old am I? This is 04. I'm 21 years old and finally breaking out. Like I'm going to actually make it now. Like I'm finally matured and I'm like, I'm maybe 140 pounds now and it's time. And it was happening. It was working. And then maybe the second worst decision of my life happened. Salt Lake Supercross, almost won my heat race there. My bike, I ended up getting a first turn pile up and my bike seized and it broke. I couldn't race Vegas and I was just going to be done because I had a deal to go to the Canadian Nationals that summer and I was training, preparing. I mean, it was like I was finally a real pro going to go for it and changing my life. And dude, in between Salt Lake and Vegas, decided, it's crazy that this all happened, but in a conversation with Buddy Antunez, my dad calls Buddy Antunez and asks his advice, and they discuss it, we discuss it, and I decide too. Everything's going so great, I'm riding so well, I need to race Vegas, I need to close out the season, it's the East-West shootout, let's go. Problem is, my bike was blown up, so ride Vincent's bike. He has a big bore. Bike rips. It's better than mine never was. I swear on everything in 04, all those hole shots was a bone stock bike with a pipe. My brother had a big bore the whole time. I didn't. I swear on everything.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask.
But I hopped on his big bore because it was running and went to Vegas and the bike seized off the face of a triple. I jumped off, shattered both my heels into powder. And that was the next 4 years you can just ignore. It was a blur because I could barely walk. I could barely ride. I couldn't ride 2 days in a row. But that year, 2004, was my shot, and I shattered my heels into powder, was in a wheelchair for the entire summer, got married that fall to Maggie, would just started walking right before our wedding. I literally couldn't dance the whole wedding. I sat, couldn't stand. And that's how I started my marriage life with her, was coming back from that injury. And then 05, 06, 07, there's nothing to even discuss. I was physically... I was handicapped all the way until about middle of 07, and when I finally started having enough.
What were you doing for money? And because you weren't making enough, right?
Racing local races, working. I had a job. I had so many weird jobs. I was a pool boy. Literally, I had a route, killed a dog. Joe knows that story.
What?
Yeah, I left the gate open on accident.
Oh, that's not killing the dog. I felt like you held it under.
Nah, I didn't close the gate properly, and a Cocker Spaniel got out and ran over in front of these people's home.
You were playing music too.
Yeah. Oh, that's when the music stuff all started, was 05, 6, and 7, because the racing thing was, dude, I would race for sprinkles because I wasn't doing very good, so I could kind of pull off some night races here, Supercross night shows, but for the most part, I was working, racing, and starting the band while I was also married, and Maggie, to her credit, was working.
Hold on. You had a whole bunch of things going on? How's that different from now?
Well, they're all succeeding now.
No.
None of them were back
I'm
then,
kidding.
dude. It was just, hey, if you put enough failure situations together, there was just enough money to mooch off my wife's paycheck and survive those 3 years. But that's when the band started, because my racing career, it was done. I mean, my feet were so bad. They're still bad. If any of you see me at the track or pits and you wonder why I limp, if you knew what my feet, if you took an X-ray of my feet right now, it would make you sick. I have a plate with 8 pins holding both my heels together, and my left heel's fake. It's fake bone. And my right one, there's about 4 or 5 original pieces, and the rest is fake bone.
Honestly,
that's my feet.
I bet I could give you a run for your money.
And both my ankles are fused.
You got me there.
So they only go up and down. I have no side to side at all.
That's gnarly.
So that's why I walk like a pirate.
And you
day.
kept at it. Why?
Yeah, but I kept at it because I didn't know anything else. It wasn't because
the band was pretty successful in between there, wasn't it? I remember hearing about it, and I thought that you guys were pretty legit.
Joe can jump in. When you
where did
it was cool, but it wasn't successful in any way. Like, we had a couple gigs here and there that paid really well, but it was almost like we kind of weirdly lucked into those. It was nothing. It was me and my brother wanting to do something different. We were driven. My brother was super passionate about music. I had nothing else really going on other than surviving, and I thought it was cool. I wanted to be in a band, and I thought maybe we'd give it a shot. But I've talked about it enough on this show. People know that I don't have the DNA and the personality for the position. I should have been a bass player, not a singer, not a frontman. I'm not, and you think that I would be because I'm on TV and I'm on camera and I can perform behind a mic. Joe will tell you that's different than being a front man. Like, you got to be a performer, and you got to be loose, and you got to almost have like a lead singer has that special something. I don't have that.
Hey, how many of those lead singers are actually intoxicated, though?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't fit the mold. I mean, Joe will tell you right now, I was not the right type of person to be a front man in a band. That lifestyle was my brother was all in. If my brother would have been the singer, I think it would have.
Why wasn't he?
I don't.
He's a guitar player.
He's a guitar player, and he can sing, but not. He couldn't really sing as well.
You had the personality, just not the.
I think the creativity, and maybe like I should have been the band's manager more than the front man. Straight up, I'll say right now, my personality was not meant to succeed in that industry. I wasn't made for that, and I was married. It was a dumb idea. It was not thought out, and I did it because I wanted to do something, and I liked music, and my brother was sick on a guitar. I mean, I got caught up in it and did that for a couple of years. And it never really went anywhere. It teased around the idea of going somewhere, but again, I'll take the blame. I don't think that I had the look, the personality, to carry a band into success, if that makes sense.
So this whole time, while you're kind of partially racing, do you still have that dream that I'm going to get better? I'm going to make this happen?
No, zero. Until I got a spark. Summer of 2007. I guess my feet are a little bit better now. I'm starting to find success again locally. Instead of being like a guy who's scraping around making money here and there, I've started winning everything locally again. Fairgrounds races, night races.
Now, what guys are you beating at this point? Probably some good dudes like Northrop, and I know you won the PIR race. Is it that year you won that one?
No, I won that in 2009. I don't even remember, but I just know that my skill, talent, speed, and body were all coming around again, and the suffering of being just kind of a local guy who could also make night shows and was just making scraps, I was starting to actually show like, hey, I think I could probably maybe give it another run. So the band thing was on its way down. I was over it. Me and my brother weren't seeing eye to eye. Where he wanted to take it. Again, I never felt like it was my thing all the way. I didn't even feel like.
Were you in the band in 07, Joe?
Off and on, 05 through 07, I think.
Okay.
Just a few shows here and there. I was a hired gun. I wasn't, like an official member of the band.
Yeah.
Joe is never.
That sounds way cool.
He was cooler. He didn't have to deal with a lot of the BS. He just showed up with the cool stuff and had fun on the good trips. Because we had a couple opportunities, and when those opportunities came, we wanted to bring in some grade A talent.
Well, and there's that show.
We had to pay for it. We had to pay to get his ass down to Seattle.
What show was it? The Prague Story?
The Prague Story. That was me and Joe. We had just met.
We don't have to retell. You did one. What episode was that? Do you remember?
Somewhere in the 80s or something.
Yeah.
Okay. If anyone wants to go back to that one, it's a great one.
It's in the backlog.
Joe knows the end of the story of the band and the transition back. My brother wanted to take the band to another level. He wanted to move to Vegas. And I'm like, dude, I'm done with that. I want to race again. I want to give it another shot. So in 2008, I did. And this is when I would say the first wave of who I am now started, where I really was extremely determined and really wanted to give it another shot and was willing to go all in. Talked to Maggie about it. She said she would support me. She was working full-time. I was working full-time because I knew that I had to make money enough so I could get new clutches and new tires. But I knew that in 2008, I was ready to give it another go. And I trained so hard, worked hard, whatever. And it didn't go well. It's like I had the speed and the skill, but it's almost like I needed another year to prepare.
Okay, before we get into what happened in 2008, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and get into 2008 and take that all the way through the rest of your career.
Okay.
Main event moto.
I hate to say it, but our NorCal Motoheads are pretty spoiled. Why? Well, where do they ride, Joe?
Riverfront, East Street, and Prairie City. And don't ask me who takes care of them trackside and during the week, because it's EMT Racing.
And who takes care of them trackside during the week, Joe?
Really, man? I literally just said EMT Racing. You didn't hear me?
That's right. If you're from Northern California and support Main Event Moto, then spin your laps at Rep Racing Tracks Buy your bikes and parts from Modesto, Honda, Cowie, KTM, and make sure EMT Racing takes care of your trackside and service needs.
Spin your laps at Rep Racing Tracks. I see what you did there. I like that.
If you're from Northern California and you're a true Motohead, then you better get your bike from Honda, Kawasaki, KTM of Modesto. They also got betas, ATVs, and side-by-sides. And if you don't know how to use Google Maps, well then here, I'll help you out. Visit them off of Carpenter Road in Modesto and see their track support parts trailer at all California Central Valley races. Visit www.hkmodesto.com to apply for the rider team, store deals, and upcoming events. And check them out on Instagram at Honda_Cowie_KTM.
Main Event Moto Podcast.
What's up, Moto heads? This episode of Main Event Moto was recorded a couple weeks back with Cooksey, and Joe and myself are getting a chance to take a weekend off and just relax and chill and enjoy the rain here in Northern California. And I wanted to throw this in to make sure it got into this week's episode. But this morning I got an email with the Supercross preview show that comes out on television every year before the season. And I wanted to give you guys the dates on the show. That you're going to have 3 opportunities to watch it before the season kicks off. And I also want to give you a little bit of background on the show. Every year as a fan, I've been able to watch the preview show, and I've always thought they've been great, where we get a chance to see the riders before the gate drops and kind of hear from them. This year's is by far the best I've ever seen. I'll give you guys some footnotes. Cooper Webb talks about the chip on his shoulder that he had coming into the pro ranks, and how most of the teams didn't have much interest in him, and how he's carried that chip, all the way through his career. Jason Anderson talks about how in 2019, dealing with not the pressures of being the champ, I guess, but more the obligations, how it got to him. And we've heard people kind of, talk about if that was maybe a little bit of an issue with him. He admits it. Eli Tomac talks about the pressure of not winning the championship and how he feels like he's in the prime of his career, but he does understand that time is maybe running out. They go behind the scenes with Roxon, Cincerello, Barsha, Baggett, Osborne, and it's awesome. It's an hour-long show. It's obviously going to be an hour long on television on NBCSN, but it's the best one I've seen. Luckily, I got a chance to see it early, so I wanted to throw that in the show so you guys knew the dates and make sure that you either DVR'd or just set an alarm on your phone, because it's before the season kicks off. You got to watch this. And if you have any friends or family that are into Supercross or maybe halfway in, sit them down and watch this episode, because they will fully understand all the guys that are going for the title this year. And it's pretty cool. Got a chance to sit down with Evan and watch it, and he's all fired up now and told me now he wants to go to the track today and go ride, because he's fired up over what Cooper Webb said. So anyways, the air dates are December 27th, 11 p.m. Eastern, so that's 8:30 Pacific, again on NBCSN. December 29th, it plays again, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And then on January 4th, the preview to the opening round, so the hour leading up to the opening round, that's 9 p.m. Eastern. It'll be on NBCSN, but it might get bumped to the Big Mama Network, NBC. That's to be determined. Also, it'll be on the Supercross YouTube channel, maybe December 30th. It might end up there as well. It's to be determined. But those are the air dates for the preview show. I've seen these every single year, and I swear to you, you guys are going to have chills. This is the best episode they've ever done. And I'm already fired up for the season, but after you watch this, it's next level. We're so lucky right now with the amount of talent that are at the top and the storylines and all these guys that have their reason why they should be winning. It's never been this good, and this show wraps it all up in. I'm also, I'll say selfishly, I'm a little prideful because I get to be in the show a bunch, and I'm pretty pumped. The first rider that they talk about is Cooper Webb, and I'm the first person to give my opinion on Cooper. So, I'm a little proud of it, guys. Anyways, those are the air dates. The show is sick. Catch it. And I'll let you get back to the interview with myself, Cooksey, and, of course, producer Joe, the man, the myth, the legend that he is. All right, guys.
All right, so we're back, and we're going to get into Joe, into 08. But first, you got a story about Joe?
I just have to point out something that
Oh,
when
boy.
Joe came around for the first time, we had opportunity to go to Prague, the Prague story, and my brother kicked so many people out of our band. Anyone that disagreed with him got kicked out, except for me. I disagreed with him the most, but he had no choice. That was his brother. But when we
hold on, maybe Instagram's good for him. Instead of kicking people out of the bands, he can just block.
He does. Why do you think he wants to ban everybody? He wants to ban everybody all the time.
Nothing new.
He does nothing new. Disagree? Ban. But with Joe, Vincent, through Joe's brother, got a hold of him, got him down. And I just got to say that when Joe first came around into my home, dude, we had to spray him with like disinfectant, man.
boy.
He was gross, grimy, Seattle, just band guy. I mean, and then the funniest thing ever is he goes into my shower, like when he gets there, and then goes in my closet and comes out wearing all like my Moto clothes. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I needed to fit in because we all were like rockers, but we also had like we were like Moto rockers.
Total Moto
and
rockers.
Joe came and he was just grimy.
I was
dirtbag.
straight off the streets.
Yeah, so
Really off the streets?
Yeah.
yeah, living in a van
Yeah.
down by the river.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I wanted to be done with that. I didn't see it going anywhere. And also, if I'm being completely honest, my wife had enough. That lifestyle, that she didn't, and I was good. She didn't like me around that lifestyle. She didn't like that I was leaving home and spending her money to go drive around in a van and be at rock shows and be a lead singer with chicks around. I mean, and I don't blame her. It was time to be done with that, and I was physically capable of racing again. So I put everything I had into coming back in 08, and I was going to turn my career around, and it didn't go good. And not because the effort or even my equipment, I had good bikes. It was just because things take a little time. I had to rebuild. I had no base. So I had little flashes of something, but not good enough to ever turn around. I remember at the end of the 08 Supercross, in fact, I quit halfway through the Supercross season again and said, well, I'm just going to go back to racing local. I got to make money. I'm not going to do this no more. And then I knew I had to give myself one more shot because it's like, man, I rode good. It just didn't work out, but I think I could do this. I just need to make changes. And I did. I switched from Yamaha to Honda, got another job again, went back to work and made money all summer, worked all summer, and trained my ass off. And in 09, I was going to give it one more shot. And right before the season, I'm like ready to go. Like a week before, my bike transmission blows up in the Honda, and I didn't have enough time to get the parts done, so I couldn't race Anaheim. And at the last minute, I just decided, okay, I'm going to race East Coast then. I'll race 450 on the West to make some money, and then I'm going to go race 250 on the East Coast, quit my job. Maggie supported me. She said, one more time.
Dude,
one
if
more
nothing
time.
else, you got a cool wife, bro.
Joe is my...
If nothing else.
I've either that or she's just really dumb, man, because she has put up with more.
If you
than
ever leave her, you're an ass.
Oh, I never would. Are you kidding me? I'll beg her to stay, dude. I'm so lucky.
You'll be worse than George Lopez, who got a kidney and then left.
Oh, man.
Or what's his face? Got the balls cancer. You know, the bicycle guy.
Oh, Armstrong.
Yeah.
The bicycle guy.
Anyway, you're that cat.
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, okay.
Maggie's the coolest, bro.
Unreal, the most loyal. Oh, she's ridiculous. Anyways,
Okay, so we're back at 09.
09, and believe it or not, this is 2009. Remember, 99 was my first year. 09, round one of the East, top 10, first time in my life. First top 10 of my entire Supercross career.
God, I would have thought you had one before that.
Nope. Huh. I had great heat races, never made it, never did anything in a main event. Always would either choke or fade or crash, just never. And ended up getting top 10. Then went to the next round in Atlanta, and I'm fifth fastest in qualifying. Full privateer, driving around the van, no mechanic, just by myself. With Jake Locks, a young kid that I took with me. His dad helped out and said, take my kid with you. But he's like 17 years old. And then I've told this story before on the show. I don't want to tell the whole thing again, but almost took J-Law's bike. They needed someone to fill in because he was showing up and not racing. And almost happened. Didn't happen. Super frustrating story.
Which team was J-Law on that day?
He had his own.
That was
It was a weird number one. So, he had his own team.
And Nick Way, and then McAvoy was probably the guy you talked to.
Yep, and we'll move on from that part of the story. To the next weekend at Indy. Indianapolis Supercross. Third place start in the main, they red flag it. On the restart, dead last place start, came from dead last to 7th. Was frustrated just at what happened with J-Law's team, because that was the whole week before that. I was supposed to fly to LA and ride for that team the rest of the year. I'm driving around in the van by myself, like I'm ready to, and I'm riding great. But that's the week that I got the tryout with Geico and ended up flying to LA, did an audition, got the gig, and then rode for Geico the rest of 2009 on a full factory team. For the first time, first time in my life, from a full privateer bike, I had one practice bike, and it was my race bike. From that to Geico the next week.
So when you got on the Geico bike, how did it feel?
Terrifying. The most insane power I'd ever felt in my entire life, and the worst suspension I'd ever felt in my entire life.
What was wrong with the suspension?
What suspension? It didn't move. It was so stiff, it didn't move at all.
Did they not work with your weight, or?
It was Brett Metcalf's bike. He likes things super stiff, and I rode Brett Metcalf's bike.
And I've told this story, and that was in Supercross?
Yep. I didn't even have a deal. It was a week-by-week deal, and I finished the season out. Almost got top 10, I think, at every race. Got 9th in points. Then raced the shootout in Vegas. Did really good there. I think I got 12th at that, but it was a showdown, East-West showdown. And then after that race, just honestly, that was it. The career was over that night. That doesn't mean I was done racing, but the career was over because I didn't perform. I got my opportunity and I didn't perform. And the reason I didn't perform is I got thrown onto something that was very good in one sense, but very bad in another, and I didn't have enough time to get comfortable. Never rode to my true potential, and when it was over, it was a thank you for filling in, and nice meeting you. And that was the end. Career was done, and now it was back to how to make money somehow. Got to survive.
When you see guys like Anthony Rodriguez, and when they throw them on these bikes temporarily, do you feel for them because you know it's got to be similar to like what you went through?
Depends on the guy. I mean, some guys can just twist. Again, think back to what I've told you. I'm so calculated. I'm careful. Everything is like so layered and strategic with me that if I get on a bike that's not comfortable, do I seem like the kind of person who's just going to let it go? I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, probably not.
No, I couldn't even ride the bike. I was slower on that bike. Go look at all the lap times that year. I was better on my crappy privateer bike than I was on a full factory bike because the bike was so bad for me. I couldn't even hold on. My hands were going numb in like 3 laps because it was so stiff and rigid, and I wasn't used to that. I had an 11-year pro career riding on my dad's suspension. It was customized to me, and I like things plush and soft because I was very technical. So that bike was terrible for me. Terrible.
I remember when you got that bike, and you were doing pretty good, and everyone kind of expected you to go to like a podium after that because that was the boost we thought you needed, and it just didn't pan out. Yeah, you're right. I do remember people writing you off.
2 nights specifically that should have happened. One was New Orleans. I ran second for 5 laps, and I think I ran third for half the race, and I couldn't hold on. My hands would go numb. It was too stiff. And then St. Louis the next weekend, I was super fast. That was the Travis Pastrana track, the crazy weird track.
Oh, yeah.
Could have podiumed that night too, but I got free seed that night.
Oh,
For the second of 4 times that year that it happened. He had it out. I don't know. He didn't have it out for me. He was just that way. I was around him.
Anyone around him.
I was around him all the time.
Which is funny because he's such a nice guy off the track.
Dude, he took me out 4 times that year, and 3 of them he was in front of me. Do the math. Yeah. Homeboy used to be a cross jumper. He's better now. But dude, that was his rookie year, so he was just learning the art of cross jump, and he was testing his craft on me every week.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Well, you're the
St.
vet.
Louis.
You're the vet that just got the bike, so he's going to show you what's up.
Exactly. Well, anyways.
When did you find out you had a kid on the way? When was your first child?
Wow. Right around then. Like the summer of 2009, summer fall of 2009 is when Maggie got pregnant. I had him April of 2010. So right then, that same sense of responsibility hit where it was like, dude, stop chasing things, dude. You're 27 years old. You're not going to make it in this sport. Do the math. You pay your bills. You got a kid on the way. And I knew that I was good enough at that time. And my name was, remember, this is just after the Geico year. My name was up there to where I was getting a lot of off-season, overseas money that I'd never seen before. You know, it went from Daniel will go for a free plane ticket to Daniel will go for $3 or $4 grand to show up in the Philippines or Estonia or wherever. That all of a sudden hit, and it was because of Geico. I was now a factory guy 6 months before that. So now all of a sudden I was getting offered money to go places and make money. So it just turned into a job. And that's literally what it was until the day I stopped racing in 2015. It was just, how can I make money in any creative way whatsoever? Because I got to pay my bills. I have a son.
Wow. Do you have any regrets about that time?
Dude. You want to do a whole nother show?
No. Just about that specific time. So obviously you can tell the racing career is kind of over. Are you already looking ahead to what do I do next? Or are you just trying to make a paycheck? Because I know you got to be trying to figure out a transition, right?
Just terrified, scared to death, no clue what I'm going to do.
How did you transition out? Take me through that.
Well, I'll tell you where it happened. Okay, I'm going to go a little religious on you, and if you guys can all take this the way you want. But I remember being at a race in Idaho, coming home. I remember specifically driving home through the night because I would red-eye drive home. Whenever we got done racing, I want to be home. I want to get back to my kid. And this is like 2012. And I remember being broken. And I'm pretty strong. Like, I think you can see through what I've gone through. I'm pretty tough. And I remember driving, and dude, Jake Locks, Brian Alquist, they're all in the back sleeping, and I'm driving, and I'm in tears driving by myself through the middle of the night through Nevada desert. Just don't know what to do with my life. this is now, I'm 30 years old. I'm racing dirt bikes at fairgrounds races to make just enough to get to next month. My wife is like putting up with me like I don't even know what to say about her. Just so loyal. And I felt so, I had overwhelming guilt and like disappointment, and just, I felt sick. And I remember just driving home that night, and I remember literally looking up at the stars, and I prayed that night, and I said, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing. Whatever you decide, I'll do, but dude, you got to point me somewhere. I am not finding the path. Find me a path, and I'll go with it. I'll do whatever. I don't even care. And something sparked in me right then, because I knew that instead of scraping for cash, I had to step it up in my output in everything in life. I had to work like a psychopath. I had to go to the next level of grind. And that's where I am right now. If you notice, I'm doing like 1,000 things because I'm almost like addicted to it now. But that day, I remember waking up the next morning and being like, I'm gonna step it up. I'm gonna grind as hard as possible, and whatever opportunity comes, I'm gonna take it. And I remember like 3 days later, my buddy Todd Ballard from GoPro calls me. He goes, "Hey, we need somebody in arena cross. We need an event coordinator, and I figured you could do it. You're racing. You want to do it? You can race arena cross, and we'll pay you." And I'm like, "Okay, like all right, I'll take whatever. That's the only. I have nothing else. Let's do it."
It's guaranteed money.
Dude, it was all expenses, flights, hotels, everything paid for, plus insane pay, and I got to go and race. It was like, wait a minute. So I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing now, but I'm going to get paid to just be there and put GoPros on people's heads?
Essentially, you're a factory rider now.
I was. So I'm like, oh, well, okay. So at least it's a step in the right direction. Remember, at least financially, things are going to get a little bit better. 2013, I do that. 2014, I do that. Like literally, I'm going through like arena cross every year, and I'm making bank, not just racing, but I figured out how to master the art of contingency. Like even getting sponsors with bonuses. Like I got smart and turned into a smarter dirt bike van privateer guy, where I was making really good money. And that led to, honestly, 2015, where my life really did change. And that's where the TV career started. And the reason why that happened too is I would always offer myself to do press days, and anytime that I could get on camera, I would do it, because I knew that if I got on camera, I could send that clip to a sponsor and maybe get them to do more contingency, or I just knew that there was ways I could make money off being way more available. So I would always do whatever press day there was, or hey Daniel, would you want to do the track report? I'll do it every week. I'll do the GoPro thing. I just went as aggressive as possible at being available in ways that I could pay my sponsors back. So, and at the same time, I'm also working full time. So when I'm doing GoPro on the weekend and racing, I'm working at home. I got my Class A license. I was driving a truck, a semi truck during the week. I was literally drove a semi truck, and was Monday through Thursday night, and then red-eyeing the race, doing GoPro, racing, making double contingent. I was just stacking, dude. The most money I ever made in my life, just hustling like you wouldn't believe. And then the call came. I remember I was down in Southern California, and I was working for my dad's buddy's construction company. They built gas stations from the ground up, and he hired me to be a superintendent and build a gas station. I built a 1.3. In fact, if anyone's ever been on the 395, the big giant Chevron in Victorville,
Yeah.
I built that.
No way.
From the ground up. I was there on day one when it was a dirt lot. I was there on the last day when we handed over the keys. I was a superintendent in charge of all the subs. I built that $1.3 million gas
The one right by
station.
Comp Edge?
Yep.
Huh, I've got gas there quite a bit.
I built that.
Oh, think of that next time I'm there.
I didn't build it. The subs built it. I didn't know shit. I sat in the truck and called the owner and was like, dude, what are they asking me? I was a babysitter on that job, but whatever. I did that. But while I was there, the band was starting up again. My brother all of a sudden was like wanting to do it again, and we had a connection. Remember the Rockstar Taste of Chaos tour or Uproar tour or Mayhem?
Yeah.
Some tour that Rockstar had. Well, we had an in with Rockstar, and they were going to put us on tour and send us on tour with Shinedown and all kinds of shit if we got the band back together. So we did. We got Mike Mason in the band, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to build a gas station. I'm going to race. I'm going to do GoPro. I'm going to build a gas. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm going to get the band back. If I have a 1 hour free in the day, I'll do it. And so I remember...
Hold on. So now, your second child...
2013.
Okay.
She's born.
Okay.
She's 2 years old. Also in that time, I owned a cab company with Hobo Nick. I mean, dude, literally,
Okay,
I did so
What do you
much.
got? Let's do it.
Dude, I did anything. that
Business
you could
idea?
think of.
Call Daniel.
Dude, you need a partner? You got an idea? You want me to... I'll do whatever. If there's an hour in the day, I'll do something in that hour.
I like it.
And what happened was, I remember specifically being in Southern California on this job site, driving to Vegas to rehearse on the weekends when I didn't go home. Some weekends I'd go home, some weekends I would. I was staying down south. We were rehearsing. We played a show in Corona at some venue, and like, dude, a bunch of moto dudes are there. It was pretty sick. I did that show, then drove to the airport, slept in my truck, flew to Chicago to audition to be the Arena Cross commentator. Because I'd gotten a call from Glenn Seelig, who said, hey, we're auditioning. Langston's going to the outdoors. We have an opening, and we got a big old list of guys. And I told them that we should give you a shot. You're really good in the track interviews and whatever. So I'm building a gas station, doing a show, getting off work in my construction boots, getting my rock gear on, looking like a wannabe rocker with my full sleeve tattoo that I got at that moment because I felt like I needed to because it looked cool at the time, even though if I could, we talk about regret, I'd get this thing completely wiped off if I could. That was just a dumb 6 months. And then do the concert and then sleep in the truck at John Wayne Airport, which is, by the way, the same airport that I flew into when I got the audition for Geico. Same airport. I remember being there being like, man, last time I was here, I was trying out for Geico. Now I'm trying out for TV. Flew to Chicago, did the audition, and got the gig. And then the next year, 2015, raced Arena Cross, won the Lights Championship, was working full-time at home while doing GoPro on the weekend and doing TV. I would leave...
Okay, hold on.
What day do you want to start?
When did you interview at WPS?
Oh, that was that was 2 years ago.
No, it was longer than that.
No.
So it was back. Wasn't it back when NorCal got hired?
Oh no! See, I auditioned, or not auditioned. I applied. No, what applied? What word did you say?
WPS.
Yeah, what did I do there?
You interviewed.
I was like, I didn't know what word.
You interviewed with Balon.
I interviewed with him to be a rep, and that was in 2015. It was the TV. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I didn't get the gig is because I had to do TV.
Yeah,
and I was flying to Chicago every week. But I also interviewed for Fly to be Fly assistant sales manager.
Oh, okay.
So, and pretty much had an offer there. Didn't do it because I would have had to move to Boise and just wasn't. I had too many other things going on. I couldn't quit everything for one thing at that time. It was just, looking back, it might have been a good move. But anyway, so 2015, I am working for my buddy got me a job at a lubricant company selling oil and grease to farmers. I would do that on Monday. I would red-eye Monday night to Chicago, do TV Tuesday, fly home, work with them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fly Friday to the races, race Arena Cross while working for GoPro, and then some nights having to get off the race in the lights class, take my gear off and put my jacket on and interview the riders in the other class for TV. Then fly home, Were we doing the podcast yet?
I don't think so.
Not yet. I think the next year. Doing all that at the same time, and the amount of money I made more money in 5 months of 2015 than I've ever done in any year of my life in 5 months, because I was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just grinding. Because remember I told you I made a decision. I'm going to take every opportunity, not just the good ones. I'm going to do everything I can all day, every day, because I had 2 kids at home, and I felt like if I kept being who I was before that, I was just a piece of garbage. I couldn't be that way to my kids, and I'll suffer for them. And that's right there is when everything really started to kind of turn around.
Had you not had kids, do you think you'd been able to make that turn?
No, I'd be racing Supercross right now, out there making night shows. Still stupid, just so obsessed with the sport. Almost again from birth. I've never known any different, and everything I've ever done different I didn't like. So if you notice, I love the podcast, I love TV, but that's what sport am I in? I'm in the sport that I've been in love with since I was a little spermy. I've never known anything different.
Kick ass. I got a couple questions to wrap it up. So that pretty much brings us up to right now, right? So, wait, no. So, okay, so you got that gig, and then how did that gig turn into the Supercross Live?
Well, remember that 5 months I said I was killing it?
Yeah.
Well, that summer, I broke my femur again, just practicing at Prairie City, just riding. And that's when my wife stepped in for the first time ever and literally told me, I was in the intensive care right here at UC Davis. In fact, this hospital we just drove by, literally 100 yards. Is that safe to say?
That's fine.
Is that way? This hospital 100 yards from here, I was in that hospital in ICU with a broken femur, and my wife came in and literally the first words out of her mouth said, "You race again, I'm getting a lawyer." And I've ridden, 4 times since then, and she let me for 5 minutes at a time. She won that. I didn't argue. It was
normally I'm down on chicks doing that, but she can do whatever she wants,
dude.
So I'm good with that.
I didn't even argue. I was in agony. I was in agony, but I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm not gonna say nothing. So that is when it then became okay. Start focusing on other. That's when the podcast was gonna get started. And I used whatever time I had doing the racing thing and turned that into other things like Eagle Grit and giving lessons and whatever. And then TV, obviously, every year has just gotten a little bit better. They added me into Race Day Live, then they added me onto the floor. I've just slowly kind of chipped away there, and I've added new responsibilities almost every year. And again, it all goes back to that year 2015, which.
That's your moment. It's funny because everyone has a moment when they decide. So yours was driving home from that arena cross.
Yep, 2012 Boise Arena Cross. Cole Siebler put on a race. It wasn't even in Boise. It was in Cole Siebler's hometown, and I was that's when I realized that I needed to work twice as hard and I needed to work twice as smart. Stop just grinding, racing local races, and just whatever and. Just start chasing paper, make as much money as possible, be smart about it, and work twice as hard. And that's how things have opened up, is all because of that grind. But what I have gotten to the point of now is I'm starting to get to the point, maybe it's just because of slight burnout. I'm getting to the point where I'm realizing that I need to start working smarter again and be a little bit more efficient with my time. Because I'm a crazy workaholic, and I feel like I'm a little spread thin, and I feel like I'm doing very good at everything in life, but I'm not doing anything great because I don't have the energy or the time put in. I work nonstop, but everything's gotten almost to a point, but nothing's getting over the hump because I'm almost just spread. I'm like butter spread too thin over too big of a piece of bread.
I'm going to go a little life coach on you here. Life is levels. So the first level is getting that work ethic and throwing a whole bunch of irons in the fire. Then you get to a certain level. Then you need to focus on those irons. And then you just like level by level, you get up. And it's fun to watch you go. But yeah, your next level is to focus. And yeah, there's some big things ahead for you, bro.
That's where I'm at. The work ethic is not an issue.
No, it's focusing it now.
It is focusing, and it's being a little bit more strategic and smarter with my effort, and realize that if I've got this much to give, I need to be able to give it to the right things.
Yep.
And push things over the hump. Because right now, it's like I got it's like I'm a farmer and I got a bunch of fields and they're all doing okay, but none of them are really producing an adequate amount of fruit. And I've got to put all my energy into a field or two and start reaping the rewards off my effort. I feel like I've opened doors, but I got to walk through a couple now because I'm running out of, I don't know if it's energy or ability to juggle. It's gotten out of hand. The last 6 months I've had some mini breakdowns because I just the candle, it's starting to go out a little bit to where I got to be smarter with my effort.
Okay, all right, we're gonna wrap this thing up. I got some questions. I got some listener questions, and I got a couple questions just to go a little bit more lighthearted. So, all right, you're shipwrecked on an island. You got everything you need to survive. What do you bring? You get 3 amenities. That's it. Everything else is just you get to live. You're on an island. What are they?
My cell phone. Do I get that?
Sure, it's your amenity. There's one.
My wife.
Okay, there's 2.
My kids. Can they be one thing?
Perfect.
If I got my phone, my wife, and my kids, I could survive anywhere.
You don't need a phone for your kids or an iPad for the kids to.
No, they can play on mine.
I'm kidding.
They can play on mine.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the.
Sorry, Joe, that you're not on that list, but he said 3. Like Joe,
3. That's all you get.
Joe,
okay.
Joe just got a little sad over there.
I got.
Really, bro?
10 years from today, where are you? What are you doing? Take a guess.
Yeah.
How old are you gonna be?
I'll be 47.
What do you want? What are you doing in 47 right now?
Is this a predict or a
time
want?
machine? Time machine. Tell me either. Whatever. It's your podcast. You tell me.
I am play-by-play in the NFL on NBC, ESPN, CBS, or Joe, as we've talked about, Amazon, YouTube, or Netflix, who are going to own the NFL in the next after the next TV deal. I'm a play-by-play in the NFL.
Perfect.
That's I've left that out of this whole story. It's the only other thing besides Moto that I've loved like Moto. I love football.
So
maybe even more.
If there's a moral to this whole thing, if you love it and you focus on it, it'll happen. So.
Yeah. If I just one thing, 10 years from now, that's what I'm doing.
Perfect. Sport of motocross, supercross, you get to change one thing. That's it. What's the number one thing you change? You're just no rules, change one thing.
Ban 450s. It's the thing I'm the most passionate about.
Okay, so you ban 450s. That's it?
Yep. I make a law where the manufacturers can't make them no more.
So they can make a 500.
No, it's just the one thing that I believe about. There's a lot of little things that I have my own little ideas, but I think the 450 is.
Do you go 2-stroke, 4-stroke?
Nope.
Like just 450?
250 works bikes.
250's max. Just cap it at 250?
250 and let them go works, and that's it.
Okay.
Instead of having a 250 and 450 class, they should have a stock 250 and a works 250 class. That's what I would do on day one, and I would tell the manufacturers, it's coming in 3 years. Get ready. So stop developing your 450s because they're gone in 3 years. That's what I would do.
As a guy who rides a man's bike, I take exception with that.
It's totally fine. If a 250 is not enough, trust me,
it's plenty for me. If
I was
going to
say it's plenty for everybody.
Everyone else is on them.
It's plenty for everybody.
But if other dudes are out there, I need it because it changes the way you ride the track if people have different power. Okay. All right. To our listener questions, Motoheads. Austin Saunders. Haven't heard Cooksey's commentary before this podcast, but love that dude. Have him on more, boys.
Nice.
Oh, well, that was the question. Okay, sorry. I'll go back.
Jeez, Joe, that wasn't a question. I think.
I'm sorry. That slid in there. I don't know how that
self-promotion there.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
So, Preston Rose 513. If Daniel didn't meet Joe playing music and met him at a local coffee shop, where would they be with the Main Event Moto podcast?
Joe, you take that one.
Or would there be a Main Event Moto?
No.
Probably not.
If you met him at a coffee shop, no?
Nah, probably not. I'd be like, this squid, square dork, get him out of here.
This weird limping dude. Dude, Joe and I's path to tonight, to sitting right here looking across and seeing this dude with a motosport.com hat on, which I find hilarious. The fact that he is sitting across me with that hat on, the path that got us here is it borderline creepy. I don't even know how it happened. It's so weird that I even met him the way I did, the way we reconnected, the way this is so weird. Honestly, it would have never happened without Vincent calling that dude in Seattle, the grimy dude from Seattle, and paying him to come down and go to Prague with us.
It's a weird and windy road.
It is very weird.
It is, and I cannot wait to do this type of podcast with Joe, which I'm going to do later
after
on.
Anaheim.
I can't wait. It's going to be gnarly. Okay, Daniel. Last question. Jason Manus 39. Why doesn't NBC air opening ceremonies on TV so we can watch? They're too good not to be aired.
Honestly, the more I'm learning about television, I'm learning that you're trapped in the time slots, as if that makes sense. When a show is created, you have your window from start to finish, but that show has to work around live event. So opening ceremonies is before 7. If we're going with our standard 7 o'clock show, which, it moves around sometimes, but say our regular Anaheim 7, opening ceremony starts before that because the show on television starts at 7 and you've got to get to the racing. So the windows aren't as wide open as you think. Even commercial breaks and segments and all that, there's not much wiggle room because you are working in a 3-hour block and certain things have to be met along the way. If you would want maybe some replay of that or something like that, that could be done. But if you're actually talking live, you would have to start the show a half hour earlier and incorporate something other than just opening ceremonies. You'd have to have maybe a pre-show at a desk something like that you could do, but in current format, it's actually impossible because of the times.
I got 2 more that'll be quick. Let's see. Alex Collude 960. What are the chances Daniel qualifies for Canadian Arena Cross right now, 1 week of prep?
I'd wax that ass with 1 week of prep. What are you talking about?
Damn right.
No, I don't even know how to answer that because the 4 times I've ridden since my broken femur, I have yet to even push for more than 10 seconds because my body is pretty bad. Like, my body's bad. Like, I talk about the 10-year thing. I'm not looking forward to 10 years from now physically. I have both ACLs torn, broke both femurs, broke my back. I have back problems right now. I go to a chiropractor every week. Both my heels or ankles are fused with the plate. My body is so bad that for me to ride, if I do anything outside of being extremely careful, one twist and I'm messed up. So the reality is 0%.
I went ahead.
It was a fun question, but 0% chance. I can't even. I wouldn't even allow myself to go faster than novice speed.
I went ahead and responded off the couch. Main event.
I appreciate.
I think you could if you actually had the fire and you put your body in the way and at risk, which you're probably not willing to do. That's why it's a hypothetical.
It's not even that risk. Don't forget what my wife said. I'd be single if it happened.
She signs off on it. That's the hypothetical. That's why
she never would.
If she signed off,
what's funny is,
dude, if she signs off, Daniel, you're in the main.
What's funny is she even says, she goes, she'll let Evan race, and I'm like, oh, so Evan gets to race, but I can't. She's like, you've proven over like 2 decades that you're a dumbass. You're done. So again, I don't. I'm like, okay, I don't even argue with that. So.
Yeah, there's too much data. Okay, last question, final question. This is both you and Joe. Why did you guys join the Racer X network? I don't see. If somebody asked it and I backed up, I was like, I don't really know why you did. Why did you join the Racer X network?
We just felt like we'd created something cool on our own, and the ability to be on their platform and kind of have maybe a bigger reach would be a good thing. And there's pluses and minuses to it. I mean, we've had some of our fans be like, dude, you're not core anymore. Like, you sold out, which we didn't really sell out. We just partnered with an established media organization that gave us a bigger reach, and that's all. There's actually less to it than y'all think. It's not. We've even had people. I've even seen people on the good old Vital MX say, seems like Daniel's mailing it in, and that's BS. Says he's taking RacerX's money, and it's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. There is no financial exchange. It is a straight delivery agreement.
Yeah.
Like, why are you reading that crap?
It's an exposure deal.
I have about 3 friends, specifically 3, that whenever my name gets brought up on there, They screenshot me what people said, and then I'm like, how? And I take the bait and I go in and go, what the hell? And dude, for the most part, it's okay. But there's every once in a while, I just want to scream because it's like, you're so wrong. And I've said this before. I don't mind criticism. I actually like it. I have this weird hard-on for criticism because I want to be better. So I'm like, I beg for it. After our TV shows, I'll beg, like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm annoyingly aggressive about trying to get criticism. But when people just talk shit or they lie or they're wrong, I freaking hate that because it's like maybe someone's getting their first impression of me, or maybe someone's getting, doesn't know Main Event Moto, doesn't know me enough to know, and they scroll through there and they see something that's wrong, or or someone's just saying something that's just completely out of this world. I freaking hate that because it's like it's not true representation of who I am. Everybody that knows me knows the truth. Criticism, bring it. I love it. I want it. But man, I hate when people don't know what they're talking about and then they run their mouth. But I've had to learn, obviously, every year as I've become a little bit more relevant in the sport, I've had to learn that stuff is getting more, and I've had to learn to ignore it. And it sucks, but it is what it is. I'm, for the most part, whatever. But some of you out there are so wrong and stupid. And if you don't know, why do you talk? I mean, I just feel like that's so stupid. If you don't know something, say you don't know. Don't go out and blast somebody when you don't know what you're talking about.
Dude, you're talking logic. It's not logical, dude. You don't understand these people.
It's just dumb.
Dude, I want to thank you for giving me the keys to your car here. Joe, Daniel, this has been badass. I hope that it was pretty decent. I didn't want to pry too much.
No, it was good.
I didn't quite get tears. So we got close, I thought, but not quite the Roy Firestone moment. But
I got the shakes there at one point, but we'll no tears, dude.
No, it's all good, dude. It's pretty. That's the one thing I can take from your career is, and it's almost anyone who's very successful. Nobody gets it on the first try. They always have to go through this story. The one thing that they always do is they just keep coming back. Mm-hmm. It's funny, when I did the one with Mathis, how many times that guy got fired? But that's what it takes to get where you need to be. And dude, I don't know. I've said from day one when I saw you, I told my wife, that Daniel's got it. That's one of the dudes. So,
well, I appreciate that. And
do I do a sponsor read here at the end?
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank Nature's Bakery, Fly Racing. Did I mention Fly Racing?
Yeah, I like your shirt.
Thank you. Skivvy, Mika Metals, Scott USA. The Fury goggle is so badass. I know you guys got the Prospect segment, but I love that Fury, man. It's good. No Toil. Love RJ over there, Ryan Jensen. Bad dude. Honda, Kawasaki, KTM of Modesto, Guts Racing, EMT Racing, Key Bar, and Rep Racing. Thanks, guys.
And motosport.com. Who are we giving a gift card to this week? What you gonna do, Joe?
Do I get to pick a guy?
Yeah.
All righty. I'm going to go with my guy. Where's he at here? The first question.
The guy that likes you. Hey,
Austin Saunders. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, my man.
He hasn't won before, has he yet, Joe?
Listen, I
don't know. I don't think so.
Sorry, if you won, you don't get a win. We'll go to somebody else. But if not, Austin Saunders, I appreciate it. I took so much abuse over at Vital. It was nice to hear some positives. Thanks, man.
All right, good show. Thanks, Cooksey.
Main event, Moto. Screw it. You know it by now.